Hi, I want to follow up what I was talking about on the previous video and discuss today a little bit about what follows on from mannerism. Historians are very keen on periodization. Renaissance and Reformation, Counter-Reformation. You look at the titles of books. They've done the same with dynasties. Nobody referred to the Tudors as the Tudors. That's the name that historians have given them. If you were an Egyptian pharaoh, you wouldn't say, "Greetings, I'm Tutankhamun from the 14th dynasty." Dynasties are something that historians have imposed, and we think that they are valid at the time, but they're not. It's rather even the same with the Habsburgs. The Habsburg name is a product of the 19th century, a part of the antiquarian interests that people had, and historians have latched onto it as a way of describing the Habsburgs. When in the about 1400, the Emperor Sigismund greets the Habsburg Archduke as of Habsburg, the Archduke is really offended and refers to him as a man from Luxembourg. So in other words, these labels, we need to be careful of them, because actually trends, periods elide into one another. And what historians like to do is to go and say there's the High Renaissance, there's mannerism, and then we end up with the Baroque, and after the Baroque we end up with the Rococo. It doesn't really work like that. There are aspects of the Baroque that are appearing at the same time as mannerism in the High Renaissance, and the Baroque will continue shorn of all its Rococo ornamentation right through into the late 18th, early 19th centuries, at which point historians give it a new label. They say it's neoclassical. We want to avoid these labels, but it's difficult to not do so because they're used so frequently. And the very fact that I'm saying I'm going to talk about the Baroque is an indication of that. What is the Baroque? Well, the Baroque, nobody's quite sure of its origin. I think it's probably an overcomplicated syllogism in logic. But it may mean a barocca, meaning it's normally said to be an awkwardly, a badly shaped pearl, but it also has the same root as veruca, meaning unpleasant wart on your foot. So it's not a very, it's a pejorative expression. But the Baroque is, most Brits don't like the Baroque. They feel that it's over-ornamented. It's a bit continental. It's a bit Louis XIV. It's a bit Catholic. They much prefer the sort of Gothic, or the type of Baroque very much shorn of ornamentation, which one sees in St Paul's Cathedral or in other of Sir Christopher Wren's churches in London. A very subdued variety, and when it comes to secular architecture, again a fairly subdued type of style known as Palladianism. We think of the classic Baroque would be this. This is a church interior. It's actually the interior of the Cathedral of Passau, which is in Bavaria, bang on the Austrian border, and in fact the Prince Bishops of Passau own most of the toll stations along the Danube that runs through Upper Austria. So, where are they in Austria? Are they not in Austria? It's difficult to tell. They're on the frontier principality, if you like, with interests in the Habsburg territories. They're also responsible for some of the reform commissions I mentioned. But that is the most effusive variety of the Baroque. On the whole, it's much simpler churches that one finds. I'm just going to struggle a bit here, I suspect. If I find it, yes, we found it immediately. This is the type of Baroque church that one will normally see in Central Europe. Again, much plainer, but with a distinctive, what's called an onion dome. If I pulled that up in my garden, I'd be a little bit surprised, but there we are. It's not quite an onion shape, but you know what people are getting at an onion dome. And normally with onion domes, nobody's sure where they come from, actually. You hear everything, oh, it's Turkish influence. Not Turkish influence at all. If that was the case, they'd be shoving minarets on the side. Not Turkish influence. It's in some places, and I mention this in my book, it's a symbol of a work of conversion done. My guess is it's actually quite a straightforward roof ornament to put on, because it's actually it's based on a bell, and people are casting bells all the time. And they're the big thing that iron foundries are involved with is casting bells. So casting bells to casting the tops of steeples is probably not far off. That's my guess anyway. The interiors of the churches are nothing like as spectacular as Passau, which is an extreme example, but nevertheless they have excessive ornamentation, and they rely on effect, and there's some quite staggering visual effects that they go for. There's one which I won't show you because I don't want people to faint, is an entire chapel made out of human rib cages. It's in Bohemia. And other ones, very commonly, they try and pretend that the church is open to the sky, and you glimpse upwards, and you can see angels cavorting, or indeed a saint. And this is, here we have, I think this is from, not coming up very nice, there's a, what if I turn up that light, you'll see it better. Well, yes, you'll see it a bit better there. This is from the cathedral at Melk, or the abbey at Melk, I should say, which is in Lower Austria. And it's about, well, it used to be that after 40 minutes on the Vienna to Brussels train, I would pass Melk, so I suppose it's about 50 miles west of Vienna. Great abbey, fantastic school, survives today, produces children of appalling intelligence and linguistic fluency. Unbelievable. It's that one is called Triumph of the Monk. See it again, you can see him being triumphant, and he's there receiving from an angel a laurel crown. So despite all the deprivations he has gone through, he is receiving a heavenly crown, a heavenly diadem. And he's surrounded by angels with harps and things like that. It's what you look forward to if you're a good Christian. The point is, it's it is, yes, open to the sky. It's a trick. And it's even got, as you can see, sort of false arcading at the bottom to make it look as if there's a sort of a balustrade, and you're looking through this balustrade. It's called a trompe l'oeil, and it's there to provide a purpose. It's to tell you that being a monk is a glorious profession, and the monk is shown to be, that is the profession that everybody should aim for, because the glory of the kingdom of heaven is there, and there is a didactic purpose to the Baroque. People always go on about it's got cherubs. Cherubs are holy, by the way. If they're just little boys, they're putty. So, for instance, this is a putty or putto. Most of the time, these are some cherubs from milk from the abbots. Well, actually, I think they're from the imperial apartments. So if the emperor should ever turn up, he's got somewhere decent to sleep. That's a cherub. A cherub is holy. A putto, or putty in the plural, is secular, is an earthly creature. And though cherubs are angels, they are angels you can't see, although they can't disappear entirely. They can't be smaller than an atom, which is why people used to debate how many angels could dance on the head of a pin. It's nothing to do with abstruse theological disputes. It's about what is the minimum size of matter, because an angel is reducible to the minimum size. So how many angels can you get on the head of a pin will indicate you what the basic smallest element of matter is. So that's really quite an important discussion. But they have made themselves visible to human eyes in the form of cherubs. And the presence of so many cherubs indicates that the place is holy. And on top of this, one will find vast portraiture. And portraits of the Baroque go for an impressive look. They go for scale. They go for, in the main, dark backgrounds with great figures looming out of them. They are always super scaled. They are to show you particular scenes of martyrdom, scenes of crucifixion, or scenes of heroic figures. They are to leave an impressive form behind. And it is the same with the architectural monuments that are put up. And the one I will show you, the most famous, if I can just find it. Yeah. This is put up just after the course ends, but you can see it there. That is the Charles Church in Vienna, a fine example of the Baroque, and I think there's a picture of it in my book, and you'll see there, if you've forked out the hardback edition, you'll see there a picture of it with people to scale, and you realise how big it is. It's a huge edifice. And it is there to, if you like, create an impression of size and the mighty nature of the Catholic Church. The Baroque is primarily art and architecture in the service of religion. That isn't to say that it doesn't have its own secular counterparts. They tend to be more muted because people have less money. The church has got plenty of money, and it's also given money by the rulers, and it can afford magnificent structures. But nevertheless, we will find the occasional one, and this is the famous Belvedere Palace of Eugene of Savoy, the top general at the beginning of the 18th century. Let's try the light again. Let's see it a bit better. What you'll be able to see there is the point which I want to make, which is the use of a reflecting pool. And the reflecting pool doubles the size of the building. But nevertheless, that is used in ecclesiastical architecture as well, to show the might of the Catholic Church and to show the, if you like, achievement of the Counter-Reformation. Thank you.